On September the 20th, 1988, Guns N' Roses' Sweet Child of Mine was number 1 in the Billboard charts, and Bobby McFerrin's Don't Worry Be Happy was being played on radio stations across the United States. In the small town of Belen, New Mexico, there was a lot in life for a certain girl by the name of Leigh Calico to be happy about. She was 19, popular, physically active, beautiful, intelligent, and the world in many ways offered an abundance of opportunities for this ambitious young girl. At the time, she was working as a bank teller and had dreams of pursuing a career in either psychology or psychiatry. When she left her house at 9:30 a.m. for a 34-mile bike ride, no one would have suspected this would be the last time she would do so. Her mother would usually go with her, but she had been spooked earlier in the week by a motorist she believed was following them, and decided to forgo the excursion. Being apprehensive, she insisted that Tara carry some pepper spray with her. Tara declined to do so. The bike ride normally took 2 hours, and Tara had asked her mother, somewhat jokingly, if she would come and collect her by car if she was not back by noon. She was scheduled to play tennis with her boyfriend Jack Cole at 12:30 p.m. and didn't want to be late. She set out on New Mexico State Road 47 upon her mother's pink Huffy bike. In her possession was a Walkman, headphones and cassette tape of the band Boston. When Tara failed to return home at the expected time, her mother hopped in her car and drove the route normally taken. Her daughter was nowhere to be seen, so she turned the car around, hoping that she would find Tara waiting for her at home. She wasn't. A deep-seated angst took over, and she notified the Valencia County Sheriff's Department and filed a missing persons report. At the time, they weren't able to begin an investigation. The allotted 24 hours had not elapsed. Fortunately, this absurd practice has been done away with in more recent years. This didn't stop the community getting involved. Tara's stepsister describes how everyone seemed to be out looking for answers. The Sheriff's Department began inquiries the following day. They led searches along the road and noticed tyre tracks from a bike that suddenly turned to the side and off the road. Not long after, the front plastic window of her Walkman and the Boston cassette tape she had been listening to were found. Moving further into the dusty terrain adjacent to the road, police came across oil marks which likely came from some sort of vehicle. A number of witnesses came forward, 13 in all, who said they saw Tara on her bike ride, though only 10 statements can be found in police files. Before we get into some of these accounts, I think it's best to give a description of what Tara was believed to be wearing that day. It's widely reported she had a white t-shirt with the First National Bank of Belen logo in yellow and red. The t-shirt was advertising the 4th of July fun run and walk. She was also wearing white shorts with green stripes and white Avia tennis shoes with turquoise stripes. This description is contradicted by a witness who said she was wearing a red t-shirt with white shorts. Her stepfather stated that they had found the t-shirt with the fun run advertisement at home and therefore could not be sure what she was wearing. The first witness was a female friend of Tara. On the morning of the 20th, she was late for school and therefore in a rush to get there as soon as possible. At the time of the sighting, she was at a stop sign about to turn left onto Rio Communities Boulevard. On braking at the stop sign, her books had fallen, and so she bent over to retrieve them. On sitting back up into a natural upright position, she noticed Tara on her bike. Both acknowledged each other with a wave. Before taking off, she saw a pickup truck moving in the same direction as Tara. Being late, she was frustrated at how slow it was moving and decided to pull out in front of them to make headway. While her side was exposed to them, she took a look and noticed 2 men were in the vehicle and said the driver gave her a look which unsettled her. This was quickly forgotten as she turned her attention onto getting to school. We'll come back to this witness after we've examined the other sightings. Baron Freeman was driving in the area that day, trying to waste time, before he set out for the airport and a return journey home. He was on Highway 6, now Highway 47, when he noticed a young girl on a quote hot pink bike going northbound. When he first saw her, she was an indistinguishable dot about a half a mile away. He also noticed that on the hill behind her there was a vehicle about a half a mile behind. As he drew closer, he had decided he should turn around and make his way to the airport. But as he was closer to the girl on a somewhat desolate road, he didn't want to spook her by coming to a halt and pulling a U-turn onto her side of the road. So he went past her with the intention of pulling the same manoeuvre a bit further up the road. Once he had passed her, he focused on what he thought to be the girl's escort vehicle. He thought it was possibly her father or a family member. Baron thought this because it was moving slowly and seemed to be following the girl. This idea became less likely as he took a look at the vehicle, which he described as ominous. He said the vehicle was an old light blue Ford truck with a homemade looking camper on it, and it was loaded with gear, indicating a long distance trip. There was one man in the vehicle, a Caucasian male. He was of an age where he could have been her father, and so rather than take a U-turn in front of him and give him the impression he was going after his daughter, he did the same thing he did before and drove on about half a mile and then turned around. He soon came back up behind the truck and tried to take a look at the license plate. It was a New Mexico plate, and he was also aware that the distance between the truck and the girl seemed odd. He felt that if the driver was the escort, he would have been closer, whereas the driver maintained a distance of about half a mile. Baron then decided to pull up next to him when overtaking to get a look at him. When parallel with the driver, he noticed he had short hair and it was speckled grey hair at his temples, but believed his original hair colour was dark. The man didn't look at him, he continued to look at the girl up ahead. Not knowing what to do, he decided to drive up to the girl to see if she was okay. When she didn't flag him, he came to the conclusion that she wasn't in any kind of distress, and concluded the man behind her was her father, but he did say he was still bothered by the sighting. Four hunters were interviewed on September the 24th, 1988, and told police they were driving northbound on Highway 47 when the driver of the truck noticed Tara and a man in a truck who appeared to be of Hispanic origin. This man was intently watching Tara, who was cycling near a vineyard at the time. The driver of the vehicle in which the hunters were riding had the best eyewitness account, which is as follows. He claims he only saw one person in the vehicle, but that there could have been another because he wasn't paying attention. The vehicle was an old Ford, probably a 1950s model, and the driver never looked over at the hunters when they drove by because he was looking too intently at Tara. Though they thought this odd, they never imagined anything bad would happen. From their perspective, it could have been a family member or friend looking out for her as she cycled in a fairly quiet area. When the sheriff brought them to the area that he believed Tara was taken, all four hunters said this was not the area. They said it was further back in a southern direction. When they arrived at this location with Lawrence Romero, they found an empty old Milwaukee beer can and a piece of a broken reflector, a cassette tape, and the plastic front piece of her Walkman was eventually found, along with tyre marks and a disturbed area where a struggle may have taken place. In another article, it stated there was evidence of these items being found the day after Tara went missing. I've been able to find a possible explanation by using a sketch description of the scene where they believe she was likely taken. You can find this on the taracalico.com website. There are two separate bike tracks separated by what seems to be a quarter of a mile. The front piece of the Walkman was found further south on the east side of Highway 47. Old Milwaukee beer cans were found close by, as were bike tracks. The Boston cassette tape was found at the entrance to a driveway 3/4 of a mile north and on the west side of the highway. And more or less adjacent to these, on the east side, there was more bike tracks found, as well as old Milwaukee beer cans and some oil slick from a vehicle. From what we can gather, the hunters brought Lawrence Romero to the location further south. Lawrence Romero must have brought them to the area further north, where they had already found evidence that Tara may have been there. Another witness, Ishmael Delarosa, gave a statement to Ray Flores of the Valencia Sheriff's Office. The statement was made by phone to another sheriff's department because Delarosa did not believe the Belen Sheriff's Office took his account seriously. Here is what Ray Flores wrote in regards to that statement. On September the 26th, 1988, I contacted Mr. Ishmael Delarosa via telephone in Mount Ayr, where he resides. Mr. Delarosa stated that on September the 20th, he was driving to Los Lunas when he came over a hill and observed a pickup truck following a girl on a bicycle. He thought the incident was strange because the driver was very intensely watching her. The driver was driving very slowly and was half on the road and half on the shoulder. Mr. Delarosa described the vehicle as being dirty white or grey in colour and being an older model. During the interview on the 30th of September, Delarosa said, "The vehicle was an older model Ford pickup with a white camper. The vehicle displayed New Mexico plates with the Sandoval County sticker on it." Mr. Delarosa stated that the last digit was 6 and described the driver as being a white male, possibly from the ages of 35 to 45, with reddish brown hair and stubble. The driver was wearing a beige baseball hat and had bloodshot eyes. Mr. Delarosa stated that just as he pulled behind the vehicle, he saw a second subject run from behind the girl on the bicycle to get in the truck very hurriedly. He could only tell that the subject had on a brown shirt. The driver drove north for a few feet and stopped again. This enabled Mr. Delarosa to pull abreast of the vehicle and view the driver. He also noted that there was some clothing hanging in the area of the back window. One significant point was brought up by Mr. Delarosa. He states the girl on the bicycle was wearing white shorts, stereo headphones and a red top. Up to this point, it was reported that Tara Calico was wearing white shorts with green trim and a white t-shirt with a red design. Mr. Delarosa was adamant that the girl he saw, and appears to have been Tara Calico, was wearing a red top. He saw her at 12 noon, that is consistent with the time she disappeared. Mr. Delarosa also pointed out the area to me, and it is consistent with the location pointed out by Hunter Number 1 and his hunting partners. It's believed that the last people to see Tara were 2 ranch hands in the employ of a local landowner called Walden Burrows. They were on their way into Belen when they came across Tara, who was approximately 2 miles away from the Rio communities where she lived. They came across the 4 hunters mentioned before. Tara was cycling in the hunters' direction and it was around 11:30 a.m. Patty Doel states that she got on Highway 6 shortly before 12 p.m. and drove south for 18 miles without seeing Tara. So Tara vanished between 11:30 a.m. and 12 p.m. based on the information from ranch hands. This would have been about a mile or a mile and a half south of Rio communities. For anyone who has come across the case in passing, there is a photo synonymous with it. Here it is. As you can see, it's a Polaroid photograph of an unidentified young woman and a young boy. It was discovered in the parking lot of a convenience store in Port St. Joe, Florida on June 15, 1989. The woman who discovered the photograph described seeing a white Toyota cargo van with no windows that had been parked before she arrived at the store. According to investigators, the woman remembered the man driving as being in his 30s and sporting a mustache. A male witness at the junior food store stated that he was at the store on the evening of June 15th and observed an 8 to 9-year-old boy sitting behind the wheel of a white van parked in front of the store. The boy was messing with the steering wheel. He also noticed an adolescent female inside the store buying groceries, accompanied by a white male with dark hair. She exited the store and got into the white van parked outside. When questioned, he identified both the boy and the girl as the people in the photograph. In relation to his account, The witness was polygraphed and passed the examination. The picture went national and was shown on a number of news stations. When Current Affairs broadcast the image, friends of Patty Doel got in touch with her to say that the girl in the photo resembled Tara. Another New Mexico family also noticed resemblances in the boy pictured. They strongly believed it was their son Michael Henley, aged 9, who had gone missing in April 1988. Detectives from Florida met with Tara and Michael's parents. Patty left the police station convinced that the young lady in the photograph was her daughter. What seemed to confirm her hunch was a scar on the unidentified woman's leg that matched an injury that Tara had suffered in a car accident. Tara was definitely in the Polaroid photo, according to her sister Michele and Patty. There is no doubt, Michele would say.
But when I looked at that picture to this day, it looks exactly like her. I just can't find but one small thing to mix those two scenarios together. And it's not something big enough to say, yes, this is all coming together. But it's big enough to still look at it and wonder, could this be? It's more far-fetched, yes, but looking at that picture, to me, it's always looked exactly like her, no doubt.
It caused consternation back in Belen because the photo contradicted theories proposed by the Sheriff's Department. We will come back to this later when we've discussed some of the other theories relating to possible suspects. We'll also look at the possibility that this case was solvable. We hope you'll join us next week as we attempt to get to the bottom of what happened to Tara Calico. Thanks once again to everyone for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do make sure to like, comment, share and subscribe to Mystery Scope. As always, until the next time, take care.